spot my feelings for you. Watch them grow.
What's up, growers? What's growing? Welcome to another episode of Underground Growers. I'm still your main vein, Iceberg Stem. This is episode 4 of Germination to Harvest. In episode 3, we took our germinated seeds, we put them in soil, and we watered them periodically for 2 weeks. Now, at the end of this 2 weeks, your seedlings should have at least 4 leaves on them. Once they get to this point, I started out with maybe, I think it was 5 germinated seeds, but my tents are full right now and I have no extra room for that many plants to go from germination to harvest. So I gave maybe 3 of them away, left me with these 2, and these are the 2 that I'm going to take you from germination to harvest with. Now that it's been 2 weeks and our seedlings have put on quite a bit of leaves, this is the point to where you want to start to give them their first feeding. You don't want to feed them too early because they're delicate and they're not ready to take on that amount of nutrients or that potency of nutrients yet. But once you get them after a couple of weeks and your seedlings begin to sprout or produce more leaves, as like you see here, I got about 2, 4, maybe 6 leaves. Once they get to that point, now it's time to give them some nutrients because they're going to need more nutrients, more energy, more food to be able to take on the new leaves and limbs that they're going to produce. And you just don't want to give them any nutrient. Just at this stage, they're very delicate. Too much of a nutrient, too high potency of a nutrient, or a certain nutrient not in the right stage. It's a nutrients for each stage of a plant, from your seedling stage to your vegetative to your flower, all the way down to your harvest. I don't use a lot of nutes, and I use certain nutes for each stage. So in your seedling stage, you want to go with the nitrogen. It's 3. I like to go with the nitrogen in the early stages of my plant. Around veg time, I will go with a lot more phosphate, and in the late veg, early flower, going into harvest, I'm using potash. I'm focusing on potash. Better to explain it, see those 3, let me get it to where you can see it. Okay, these 3 digits here. Whenever you go by nutrients, you're gonna have 3 digits. That 2, it's not necessarily gonna be a 2 or a 1 or 0. It's just gonna be 3 digits. So that's pretty much with any nutes you're gonna go get. And I'm gonna explain those 3 digits to you in just a sec. Let me see, like on here, you're gonna have, well, if you can see that pretty good. But yeah, you're gonna have those 3 digits. And I use those 3 digits to, is what I go by each stage. So the way I look at it is, I say the first digit, seedling, second digit, vegetative, the last digit is in my flower stage. So in the seedling stage, your first digit, you want it to be the high number. You don't necessarily have to have a number on these other 2 digits. It could be 0, but on the first digit, you want to focus in. Like this one is a 2-1-0 ratio. My first digit is higher. I'm in the seedling stage, that's what I want. No matter what nutes you go by, you want nitrogen in your seedling stage. Like on this one, it's higher ratio. I think this one is 11, 0 and 0. So it's a little bit more nitrogen in these nutrients. So 8, 0, 0, that first number is high. That's what I want, more nitrogen for my nutrients for my seedling stage. So now that I'll explain to you what to feed your seedling for the first time, you want to definitely go by the directions on the back. on how much to feed your seedling, how much nitrogen to give your seedling. Go by the directions on the back and use a little less, a little less. So we don't want to kill them off too fast. We want them to reach out. We want the roots to reach out for more, and we want these roots to, not go root bound, but take a lot of space of this solo cup before I go to transplanting. I don't want to transplant yet. I will transplant when my seedling is pretty much the size of this cup. I want the leaves to spread out the width of this cup, before I transplant my seedling. I keep a fan on them so they don't, it helps them to stay strong. The constant flow of the fan blowing on them, it helps them to sturdy up a little bit. I don't have the fan blowing directly on them, but I see how they're taking the breeze. Let me know they are getting quite a bit of breeze on them without being directly on them. That strength helps us to strengthen them. I don't have my light too close to them either. I don't want them to stretch out no more than they already are. So my light is maybe 15 inches. I'm using a CFL, a light CFL, so it doesn't heat up and harm the plant. You don't want it too close. You can hold your hand above your plant, between the light and your plant, and if it's burning your hand or your hand is uncomfortable there, then your plant is also uncomfortable. So make sure your plant, the light is enough distance away so your plant doesn't get burnt by the light. So with that being said, we don't want to overwater our plants. With that being said, Germination to Harvest, episode 4. We're updating the seedlings that we put into soil, and we're going to feed them for the first time. 2 weeks, multiple leaves. That means it's time for their first feeding. Nitrogen in the seedling stage. Depending on how long you want to bed your plant out for, I usually go 1.5 to 2 months before I send my plants into flower. So depends on you. Some people go a month and then they flip them over to flower. I like to let my plants, my seedlings grow into, have a nice vegetative, growth. It helps for the leaves or the branches to be able to hold the fat nugs that you're gonna have growing on there. So you don't want no weak limb holding a big nut. It's just gonna flop over and just roll over like a bobblehead. You don't want that. You want a nice, stiff, long, stem or branch to hold your bud. So let's feed them. Let's feed them right. Nitrogen. Like, subscribe, and tune in for episode 5, Germination to Harvest. Most likely to episode 5 will be transplanting. So it's going to be, I do some more updates on this. It's going to be a while before I transplant. Like I said, I veg out my plants for about 1.5 to 2 months. But I will be transplanting this into a maybe 1 to 2 gallon pot. Most likely I got some 1 gallons I'm probably going to put it in. So stay tuned for episode 5. Transplanting our seedlings from the solo cups to 1 gallon pots. Like, subscribe, and good growing.
Deep are my feelings for you. Watch them grow.